Exiled alien twins, expected oblivion. On Earth, what they found changed everything. The Namib Sands, a golden ocean beneath a vault of stars, stretched endlessly under the clearest sky on Earth. Jonas Mercer sat alone in the control hub of his isolated research station, the gentle glow from an arc of monitors painting his face with fractured light. He ran a hand through his unkempt hair, listening to the soft whir of custom-built machines, the only voices that kept him company now. Once, his world had been filled with laughter, with partnership and bright promise. Now, the silence pressed in, heavy as the dunes outside. Then, a piercing alert shattered the calm. The meteor detection array screamed for attention, red icons blooming across the primary screen. Jonas's heart jumped. For a moment, he simply stared at the data scrolling in tight, urgent lines. Object detected, moving impossibly fast, then slow, then faster again, its trajectory zigzagging across the lower stratosphere. Not a rock, not any natural debris. Its thermal signature pulsed erratically, an odd dance that defied the laws of physics Jonas had once taught. His scientist's curiosity cut through his isolation. He shoved aside a mug of cold tea, snatched up his field kit, and jogged into the night. The desert air bit at his cheeks as he crossed the compound, the battered off-road truck waiting like a loyal hound. Jonas gunned the engine, tires skidding, sand spraying behind him as he tore across the wind-sculpted dunes beneath the cold shimmer of the Southern Cross. Half an hour later, he crested a ridge and slammed the brakes, heart hammering. Below, nestled in a shallow trough of sand, was something he could not have imagined. Not a crater, but a vessel, otherworldly in its elegance. Streamlined, almost organic, the hull was warped and steaming, etched with runes that glowed faintly in shifting colors: violet, turquoise, deepest gold. The vessel's surface shimmered as if alive, reflecting the starlight in ripples. Near the ship, two figures lay sprawled, half buried in the sand. Jonas's breath caught. Their skin shone with a luminous jade-green light, swirling with patterns that seemed to move on their own, constellations alive beneath the surface. Both had long white hair, one's braided into intricate loops, the other's loose and wild, catching the breeze. Silver and obsidian collars framed their angular faces, sharp yet serenely beautiful. Jonas's training took over. He slid down the dune, boots sinking into the soft sand, and knelt beside the nearer figure, the one with the braided hair. She was gravely injured, a deep gash across her temple, blood bright as mercury, her chest rising shallow and fast. The other, less wounded, stirred at his approach. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes the color of polished emeralds, pupils slit like a cat's. "Please, don't harm us," she whispered, her voice resonant with harmonics that vibrated in Jonas's bones. He steadied himself, forcing calm into his voice. "I won't hurt you. I'm a scientist. I can help." The conscious woman searched his face, as if deciphering not just his words, but his very essence. At last she nodded, swallowing. "My sister Syrah. She's badly hurt." He glanced down at Syrah, noting the jagged wound, the erratic pulse at her throat. "Can you walk?" he asked gently. The woman nodded, though her hands trembled. "Yes, I am Lyra." "Good. We need to get you both out of the open." Jonas slipped his arms beneath Syrah's shoulders, surprised by the lightness of her body, the wiry strength in her slender frame. As he lifted her, Lyra hovered at his side, anxiety etched in every line of her posture. She clung to his arm, steadying herself against the world's sudden tilt. "Why do you help us?" she asked, voice raw. "You don't know what we are." Jonas looked at her, his gaze steady. "You're in trouble. You didn't ask for this. That's enough for me." The drive back across the dunes was tense, Lyra in the passenger seat, her hands clenched tight on her lap, eyes darting from her unconscious sister to the strange human at the wheel. She answered his urgent questions as best she could. "Her blood flows differently, clots quickly, but the patterns on her skin, they dim when she is hurt. If they fade too much. She left the sentence unfinished, fear tightening her voice. Jonas glanced at her, careful to keep the truck steady. The patterns, are they part of your nervous system, or something else? They are conduits, for energy, for health. When we are in pain or frightened, they dim. He nodded, filing away the information as the compound came into view. A cluster of domed buildings arranged around a massive telescope, its white dish gleaming under the stars. Fences bristled with sensors. The whole place was fortress and sanctuary, both. Lyra peered out the window, apprehensive. "What is this place?" she asked. Jonas managed a small, wry smile. "Home. For now, it's safe." Inside, the air was cooler. Jonas laid Sira on the examination table in his improvised clinic, the room cluttered with medical gear scavenged from old government grants and supply runs. He moved with practiced efficiency, but paused, turning to Lyra. "I'll need to know more. Your biology, how you heal, how your body reacts to pain, medication." Lyra pressed her palm to Sira's brow, her own patterns flickering with exhaustion. "We are similar to you in some ways, but the patterns, they must not be severed or dulled. The energy must flow. Our blood, under your light, will show the state of our health." Jonas donned gloves, scanning Sira with his UV lamp. Her blood glimmered, veins etched like lightning beneath translucent skin. Her organs, visible beneath the shallow wound, looked almost familiar. Heart, lungs, but arranged with subtle alien logic. He cleaned the gash, noting how Sira's patterns flickered, then steadied as Lyra murmured in her own language, a song of comfort. Working together, they stemmed the bleeding, sealed the wound with a blend of Jonas's antiseptic and a silvery gel Lyra produced from a pouch at her belt. Sira's breathing eased, the patterns on her skin strengthening as she stabilized. Lyra slumped onto a stool, eyes rimmed with fatigue. "You're not afraid," she said quietly, watching Jonas as he adjusted the monitor. He glanced at her, a rueful smile tugging at his lips. "Should I be?" "Most would be. We're different." Jonas looked down at his hands. "So am I. Maybe that's why I understand." As if in answer, Sira's patterns brightened. She stirred, eyes fluttering open, her body tense. She tried to push herself upright, panic flaring in her luminous gaze. "Sira, wait!" Lyra caught her hand, voice soft but urgent. "He saved you." Sira hesitated, eyes flicking from her sister to Jonas. "What did you do to me?" she demanded, her tone edged with suspicion. Jonas kept his voice gentle, explaining the procedure, the wound, the way they'd worked together to save her life. Sira listened, her skepticism slowly giving way to grudging respect. "Thank you," she muttered, lowering her eyes. Jonas nodded, exhaustion catching up with him at last. "Now let's get you healed, you. Then we'll decide what's next." The hum of the machines filled the quiet as, for the first time in years, Jonas was not alone. Days passed in a rhythm of recovery and adaptation. Sira healed with astonishing speed, the gash on her temple closing into a silvery scar, her luminous skin patterns gradually regaining their vivid glow. Still, she moved with a certain care, her energy not quite restored, but her mind as sharp as ever. Within the cool domes of the research station, life took on a new cadence. A fragile, unlikely harmony between Earth and stars, between alien and human. Jonas, for the first time in years, was not alone. Each morning he found Sira already in the workshop, bent over a spread of components, her tools sleek and strange, his own battered implements scattered beside them. She would glance up, emerald eyes narrowed, challenging him with a wry smile. He met her wit with his own, and soon the room buzzed with the gentle clatter of collaboration. "Your capacitors are primitive but robust," Sira observed, fitting a tiny crystal into a repurposed circuit board. I would have dismissed them as useless, but she snapped the board into place, and the diagnostic screen flared to life. They adapt well. Jonas grinned, wiping sweat from his brow. That's the story of humanity. Improvise, adapt, hope nothing explodes. Syrah's laughter was a sudden, musical sound, and the living patterns on her skin pulsed brighter, swirling in fresh colors. You improvise well, she admitted one morning, handing him a delicate probe shaped like a quill of glass. Not many could get my emitter working with this. She gestured at his pile of scavenged wire and mismatched batteries. It's necessity, Jonas replied, accepting the tool and adjusting it with nimble fingers. Out here, you learn to make do, or you don't last long. Syrah watched him, her respect growing with each successful repair. The difference in their worlds faded as they hunched together over tangles of metal and light, trading technical jargon, translating each other's shorthand into something new. Sometimes, Syrah's hand would brush his, electric and fleeting, and Jonas would meet her gaze, an unspoken understanding flickering between them. Lyra, meanwhile, gravitated toward the dome, drawn to Jonas's nightly communion with the sky. She moved with silent grace through the observatory, her presence as natural as the hush that followed sundown. Jonas taught her how to calibrate the massive telescope, how to sift cosmic signals from the static of the universe. Lyra absorbed every lesson with quiet intensity, her innate sense of orientation uncanny. She seemed to feel the movement of the heavens in her bones. One night, as the wind sang outside, Jonas found her standing by the main viewport, tracing shapes in the air. The glass reflected her green-tinged skin, her silver obsidian collar catching the starlight. He watched as she connected points only she could see, her fingers painting constellations from some other sky. You feel the sky, Jonas murmured, stepping beside her, his own hand resting on the cool rail. Lyra turned, eyes bright with wonder. It sings to me. Even here, your stars are strangers, but their music is familiar. She hesitated, then reached out, placing her jade-green hand over his. Jonas felt a wave of sensation pass through him, every star outside suddenly alive with meaning, each pulse of light a story whispered across eons. How do you bear it? He whispered, awed and a little afraid. All that distance, the silence. Lyra's grip tightened, her touch both gentle and unyielding. It's harmony, not chaos, she said softly. If you listen, the sky is never silent. Their hands lingered, fingers entwining in a slow, deliberate motion. Jonas searched her serene, angular face, the shimmer of her collar framing the depth in her gaze. For a moment, the gulf between their worlds shrank to nothing. When your ship is repaired, what will you do? He asked, voice barely more than a breath. Lyra hesitated, the question settling between them like a fragile bird. Syrah and I have always been together, she said quietly. But now, I don't want to leave you behind. The words hung, trembling with possibility. Jonas's chest tightened, the truth of his own longing suddenly clear. Downstairs, Syrah's voice rose in a frustrated curse, the sharp snap of a tool breaking the spell but not the bond. The days tumbled forward, gentle and strange. Meals became rituals, Syrah poking at Jonas's attempts at alien cuisine, Lyra delicately sampling his earthy stews. Laughter echoed through the station, warm and unguarded. Evenings found Jonas and Lyra on the rooftop, stargazing in silence, fingers entwined, their awe quietly electric. With Syrah, it was the thrill of challenge, solving puzzles together, the hum of shared accomplishment, a warmth blooming beneath their mutual respect. Yet beneath the fragile peace, uncertainty lurked. The ship, half buried and dormant, loomed as a silent reminder of impermanence. Jonas caught Lyra gazing at it sometimes, her expression distant, troubled. Syrah, for all her bravado, lingered in the workshop late into the night, as if afraid that sleep would steal this unlikely haven. Then, without warning, a sandstorm rose, swift and violent, a living wall of dust and wind that swallowed the horizon. The station shuddered under the onslaught, windows rattling, power flickering. Jonas rushed through the halls, rounding up blankets and emergency lanterns, shouting over the howl. "In here!" he called, herding Sierra and Lyra into the main room. The three huddled together on the battered couch, layers of blankets piled high. The room fell into darkness as the lights died, the only illumination the faint, undulating glow from Sierra and Lyra's skin. Jonas wedged himself between them, feeling Lyra's breath warm against his neck, Sierra's arm draped protectively around his shoulders. The storm battered the station, a primal roar that seemed to shake the world apart. "We'll get through this," Sierra said, her voice thin but determined. Her patterns flickered, casting strange shadows across the walls. Jonas squeezed their hands, refusing to let doubt creep in. "We need to stay close. No arguments." He drew them tighter, the three pressing together, a single unit against the wildness outside. For a long while they simply listened, to the storm, to the sound of their own hearts, to the quiet new rhythm they had found. Sierra's fingers traced mindless shapes along Jonas's forearm. Lyra tucked her head against his shoulder, her breathing slow and even. The hush inside the room deepened, as if the world itself was holding its breath. "At last," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling with vulnerability. "I fear for what comes after. I do not know where we belong now." Jonas closed his eyes, the confession ringing true in his own chest. "I feel it too," he said. "I've spent my life searching for something, and now I'm terrified to lose it." Sierra surprised them both, her voice suddenly small. "For once, I want to stay, with both of you." Not running, not hiding. She clung to them, her strength suddenly fragile, her honesty laid bare. The three lay together, hearts aligned, barriers dissolving with every shared breath. Outside, the storm raged without mercy, scouring the desert clean. Inside, something new was born, a fierce, tender thing, forged in the crucible of fear and hope. The wind howled on, but within the circle of their embrace, the world was quiet, and the future, for the first time, seemed worth daring. Dawn revealed destruction. The storm had scoured the Namib sands clean and left Jonas's station half buried, domes caked in drifts, solar panels shattered and torn from their moorings. The battered telescope looked like the skeleton of some prehistoric beast, half sunken, half struggling toward the sky. Jonas stood at the threshold, boots crunching in the pale light, breath catching at the sight of devastation, his home now part of the endless desert. But at the edge of the compound, the ship, alien and inscrutable, was humming. Its hull, scoured but intact, shimmered with new energy. Faint glyphs glowed a fierce blue along the seams. Sierra was already there, her slender hands flying over the control surface, voice tight with urgency. "Systems are responding," she called, her accent sharpened by adrenaline. "The core's waking up. Navigation, life support, functional. But the jump drive—" She bit off a curse in her native tongue. Jonas was beside her in an instant, eyes scanning the ship's interior. The console was a riot of unfamiliar symbols, but his mind, tuned by years of improvisation, began mapping their meaning. "Show me where it's failed," he said, fingers hovering over the translucent keys. Sierra gestured at a crystalline node, its edges spider-webbed with fractures. "The drive's lattice is burned out. No way to rebuild it with what we have." She slammed a fist on the console. "We're stranded." Jonas placed a calming hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure something out. Let's focus on what works." Above them, Lyra moved like a shadow through the ship's upper deck, her face illuminated by cascading data on a wall-sized comm display. Suddenly, she froze, emerald eyes wide as she replayed a burst of static-ridden audio. The voice that emerged was distorted, mechanical, and chillingly precise. Subjects Sira and Lyra. Retrieve immediately. Project Echo. Priority. The words hung in the air, crackling with authority and threat. Lyra's hands trembled as she turned to face her sister and Jonas. They're coming. The Dominion. They know we survived. A silence thickened, fear sharp and immediate. Sira stepped forward, jaw set. It's not a crime, she said softly, her gaze flicking between Lyra and Jonas. It's what we are, twin bonded. It's rare among our kind. They've always watched us, but they don't understand. Jonas frowned. Twin bonded? What does that mean, really? Lyra reached for her sister, their hands clasping tightly. At once, the living patterns on their skin synchronized, shifting, swirling in perfect unison. The air itself seemed to thicken, charged with energy, the faint scent of ozone prickling Jonas's senses. Watch, Sira said. Her voice was almost a chant. Their pulses aligned, and for an instant the entire room vibrated with invisible tension. Jonas staggered, a pressure blooming in his mind, a taste of something vast and unfamiliar. Images flashed behind his eyes, memories, feelings, threads of consciousness woven together. A word echoed. Echo. Lyra's voice was soft but steady. The Dominion tried to harness it before. Twin bonding, the echo, it never worked. Until now. Because of you. Jonas blinked, stunned. Me? It's not just you, Sira explained, releasing Lyra's hand but keeping their eyes locked. It's what you are, human. Your minds are unpredictable, impossible to anticipate. That's why you're the perfect catalyst. The Dominion's data says Echo needs more than proximity. It needs connection. Real connection. That's why it failed. Until now. The implications rippled through Jonas's mind. So the Dominion wants to use you, to use Echo as a weapon, with me as the trigger. Lyra nodded, fear trembling beneath her composure. If we refuse, we're expendable. If we comply, they'll turn us into something monstrous. A chill settled between them. Jonas's resolve hardened. Then we tested ourselves. If it's real, if Echo exists, we make sure they never use it. Sira's eyes flashed, a fierce spark of approval. Agreed. We do it our way, or not at all. They began their work at once, the science a wild blend of quantum mechanics and intuition, human logic and alien instinct. Jonas scavenged sensors from the ruined lab, linking them in a makeshift array around the main room. Sira modified the ship's biomonitors to read not just vital signs, but the subtle shifts in consciousness. Lyra, ever the navigator, mapped the psychic terrain, sketching diagrams that looked more like art than mathematics. Synchronization was key. Physical, emotional, mental. Each layer needed to align. They spent hours preparing, calibrating, adjusting their fragile web of machinery. The air in the station grew thick with anticipation, every surface alive with possibility. Finally, as dusk approached, they gathered in the main room. The wind outside had stilled, the world holding its breath. Jonas sat between Sira and Lyra, the sensors blinking quietly. The sisters faced him, their hands outstretched. Let it happen naturally, Lyra murmured, her voice a gentle invitation. Jonas took her hand, then Sira's. He closed his eyes, letting his walls down, trusting in the strange, beautiful bond that had grown between them. He focused on his affection for Lyra, his admiration for Sira, the sense of belonging he had never known before. His breath slowed, his heartbeat syncing with theirs. The patterns on the sisters' skin began to glow, light blooming and swirling in intricate designs. Jonas felt his own thoughts loosen, intertwining with theirs. Sira's fierce loyalty, her deep need to protect. Lyra's wonder, her searching hope. His own yearning and fear, suddenly laid bare. The boundaries between them thinned, consciousness merging at the edges. Energy built, at first a pulse, then a current, then a rising tide. The sensors sparked wildly, readings leaping into the red. Jonas's vision blurred. The room faded, replaced by a sphere of light that enveloped them all. In that moment, Jonas saw the universe as a web, threads of possibility stretching out from each of them, converging, splitting, dancing. He saw himself, Sira, and Lyra at its heart, three nodes in a lattice of infinite connection. He felt the Dominion's cold reach pressing in, the threat of manipulation and destruction, but also the possibility of something greater, a force that could not be owned. Time lost meaning. There was only the hum of connection, the certainty that none of them would ever be the same. When the vision faded, they found themselves sprawled on the floor, the equipment around them fried, screens dead, air thick with the scent of burnt circuits. The walls, once plain, were now etched with new patterns, faintly glowing, reminiscent of the sister's skin. Jonas felt the connection still humming in his chest, a resonance he could not explain. Sira sat up first, wide-eyed, awe and dread mingling in her voice. "We did it," she whispered. "Echo is real, and we're more powerful than they ever imagined." Lyra reached for Jonas, her hand trembling. "The link, it's still there. We're changed. Forever." Jonas squeezed her fingers, his own fear tempered by resolve. "Now we prepare. No matter what comes, we're not alone." Outside, the desert waited, silent and watchful. Inside, the three of them faced the unknown, their fate now inseparable, and their hearts, for the first time, truly aligned. High above Earth, in the cold quiet of orbit, Captain Ryan Cade watched a shifting lattice of data streams shimmer across the inside of his visor. His cybernetic eyes flickered gold, scanning quantum signals that human senses would never detect. The moment the Echo event bloomed, three minds, one force, Cade's neural link pulsed with a pattern he'd been programmed to find. It was unmistakable. "Echo event. Coordinates locked," came the voice of his tactical AI, emotionless and sharp. Cade's jaw tightened. "Set course for the signal," he commanded, his voice as precise and relentless as the machine augmenting his mind. Engines growled to life, and the Dominion hunter ship banked into a fiery descent, claws unsheathed for pursuit. On the battered surface below, Jonas, Sira, and Lyra moved through the half-lit station, changed by what had happened. The Echo had left a trace in each of them, a new, almost frightening awareness. They found themselves completing each other's sentences, anticipating needs, feeling warmth or fear ripple across the bond like a shiver of wind. It was more than empathy. It was a living circuit, humming and alive. Even the world around them responded. Jonas noticed the battered steel beams of the old dome, corroded for years, now gleamed faintly, stronger, fused with a subtle lattice that defied easy explanation. Broken electronics hummed back to life, circuits knitting together in more harmonious arrangements. Sira's fractured emitter, discarded on a workbench, pulsed with new, steady light. "Our Echo. It creates," Lyra whispered, tracing a finger over a crystalline pattern etched onto a metal plate. "It changes things, makes them better." "But it makes us vulnerable too," Sira replied. She flexed her hand, watching the patterns on her skin shift. "I feel exposed, as if every thought could be heard by someone listening." Before Jonas could respond, an alarm shrieked through the station, an alert from the battered sensor array. Jonas darted to the comm screen, his fingers flying over controls. The readings were impossible, a colossal object speeding toward the atmosphere on a direct vector for the station. Sira's face went pale. "That's Dominion tech, a hunter ship, designed to capture escapees like us. They'll have a tracker. We're their quarry." The station transformed in an instant. Jonas and the sisters began sealing doors, reinforcing windows, and piling sand against the weakest walls. The telescope's dish was repurposed as a makeshift shield, its inner workings twisted by Sira's deft hands. Supplies were gathered, weapons checked. The feeling in the air was electric, fear sharpened by resolve. Jonas turned, urgency in his eyes. We can't fight head-on. We mislead him. I have a series of remote sensor posts, old equipment, but still functional. With your help, we turn them into decoys. Sira nodded. I can reprogram the posts to emit false signals, phantom echoes scattered across the desert. It'll buy us time. Lyra knelt beside her, producing a handful of multifaceted crystals from the ship's stores. These can amplify the mental shield. If we anchor them at the sensor points, I can weave a field to mask our presence, make us invisible, or at least hard to pin down. They worked with frantic precision. Sira hunched over a jumble of circuit boards, her fingers moving in a blur as she rewrote code, redirected power, and programmed the posts to mimic their unique psychic resonance. Jonas loaded the decoys onto his battered truck and, under the burning midday sun, buried each device at key points around the dunes, marking their locations by instinct more than GPS. Sand whipped at his face, sweat stung his eyes, but the need for speed overruled exhaustion. Meanwhile, Lyra moved through the station, crystals pressed to her brow, her breath slow and even. She placed them at the cardinal points, murmuring in her own language, her mind expanding until the walls of the station felt insubstantial, a bubble of silence in a sea of searching minds. Jonas returned, eyes wide with awe as he felt the shield settle over them, a weightless hush in his bones. Their final preparation was the hardest. Together, they gathered in the main dome, hands clasped, hearts pounding. Jonas's voice trembled, but his resolve was clear. We need Echo not as a weapon, but as a shield. We become a living silence, a pocket of nothing. That's how we survive. Sira's grip tightened. We focus on stillness, on trust. Let nothing but quiet pass between us. Lyra's emerald eyes met Jonas's, full of fierce determination. Together, no fear. They slowed their breathing, sinking pulse to pulse, letting the noise of panic fade away. As one, they projected a field of perfect calm, emotionless, thoughtless, a void in the storm of energy swirling overhead. The station, usually a hotbed of scattered signals and anxious movement, became a single, silent point in the vastness of the desert. High above, the hunter ship streaked through the upper atmosphere, its hull sheathed in flickering blue plasma. Cade stood in the command center, his cybernetic spine plugged into the ship's neural core. Drones, deploy. Full spectrum sweep, he ordered. Swarms of seeker drones spilled from the ship's belly, fanning out across the Namib sands. They sniffed at the decoy signals, each one a carefully crafted lie. Holographic echoes danced across Cade's displays, phantom mines, false pulses. He frowned, irritation pricking his enhanced nerves. They're clever, he muttered. But the shield could not fool him forever. In the heart of the static, Cade's sensors detected a ripple, an odd interference, a gap in the noise that was too perfect to be natural. Zero in on the anomaly. Prepare the assault package. The drones converged, their scanners slicing through sand and stone. Energy cannons mounted on the hunter ship swiveled, targeting the dome. Inside, Jonas, Sira, and Lyra joined hands once more, their circle unbroken. Outside, the first energy blasts hammered the invisible barrier, waves of force crashing against the echo shield. The impact shuddered through them, draining strength, making the bond flicker. Sira gasped, sweat beading on her brow. Lyra's knees buckled, but Jonas held them together, his will a lifeline. We hold, Jonas whispered, no matter what. The station rattled under the barrage, walls groaning, sensors shorting out. For a moment, it seemed the shield might collapse. Then Jonas found a well of determination. fueled by his love for both sisters and his refusal to surrender. The echo pulsed, renewed, and the barrier held. Above, frustration etched itself into Cade's features. "Enough," he barked. "Orbital strike now!" The ship's main cannon charged, a boiling sphere of energy collecting in its heart. Sira and Lyra felt the danger before the systems registered it. A gathering storm aimed straight at them. "We have to do something," Lyra cried. "Channel the echo through the dish," Sira commanded. Jonas leapt for the controls, rerouting power from every remaining cell to the battered radio telescope. The sisters poured their energy into him, their thoughts and fears and hopes converging in a single blinding current. Jonas slammed his palm onto the transmit button, and the echo surged through the dish, intercepting the strike. A burst of searing light lanced into the sky, refracted and redirected into a constellation of coded pulses, a star map burning itself across the clouds. It was a warning, a threat, a message only a Dominion tracker would understand. Cade's eyes widened as the data hit his neural link. "Impossible," he hissed. He read the encoded map, a path marked with danger, a promise that if he pressed further, destruction would follow. His anger turned cold, precise. "Prepare for ground assault," he growled, voice metallic. The hunter ship dropped lower, shadows spreading across the sand as Cade readied for the next move, determined, more than ever, to claim his prize. A lull fell after the storm of violence. The hunter ship loomed overhead, scorched but silent, its drone swarms scattered and broken across the dunes. Inside the battered station, Jonas, Sira, and Lyra regrouped, catching ragged breaths. The main dome's walls bore fresh scars, blistered metal, the stench of scorched ozone, cracks radiating from impact points like lightning frozen in glass. Yet they stood together, alive and defiant, the air thrumming with the lingering charge of the echo. Jonas pressed a shaking hand to his forehead, sweat streaking the grit on his brow. Sira crouched by the remains of a downed Dominion drone, her fingers nimble and precise. She pried loose a scorched command band, its silver surface flickering with dying light. "If I can get this open," she muttered, "I can sever Cade's network, blind him, maybe more." Lyra knelt beside her, senses stretched thin across the desert. Her skin shimmered with worry, the luminous patterns flickering in restless waves. "He's coming," she whispered. "Not alone. I feel his mind. A storm, soldiers with him, bound tight, like shadows following a torch." Jonas nodded grimly. "We don't fight them head-on. That's his strength, not ours." He knelt, touching both sisters' hands, drawing them into his circle of resolve. "We break their link. Cade controls them through that psychic chain. Sever it, and they'll fall apart." Sira's eyes met his, fierce and wild. "I can do it. If we focus Echo, strike at the network's core. His command band will be the anchor. But we'll need all of us." Outside, the desert shimmered with heat as Dominion troops advanced, dozens strong, armored and precise, moving in formation with the mechanical unity of a single mind. Cade led them, a towering figure of metal and rage, his face masked by a visor that glowed with cold fire. His soldiers' steps matched his heartbeat, their rifles raised in perfect time. Inside, the trio joined hands, their bond thrumming with urgency. Sira set the command band between them, its surface flickering with encrypted data. She reached into the tangled circuits, fingers glowing, her consciousness unfurling into the network. Lyra followed, their minds twining with Jonas's, the echo surging in a spiral of intent. Jonas felt the psychic mesh, threads of will binding each soldier to Cade, a web woven tight with obedience and fear. He focused, lending his stubbornness to the mix, pushing against the tyranny of that control. The sisters amplified his effort, their thoughts blending in a crescendo of silent force. The effect was immediate. As Cade's troops swept toward the dome, rifles ready, they faltered. Movement staggered, eyes blinking in confusion. A few stumbled, clutching their heads as the psychic tether recoiled, snapping with invisible force. Syrah seized the moment, activating a pulse emitter she'd rigged from scavenged tech. A sphere of crackling blue energy burst out, washing over the soldiers in a wave of dissonance. The Dominion formation shattered. Soldiers broke ranks, some dropping to their knees, others staggering away in panic. Their rifles dangled uselessly as their training failed them. Jonas, feeling the echo surge in his chest, moved to the breach, no longer just a scientist, but something more. He fought with a clarity not his own, weaving between soldiers, disarming and subduing them with almost prescient speed. Syrah and Lyra moved beside him, echo-driven, their movements in perfect synchrony. Within minutes, the ground was littered with unconscious or dazed Dominion troops, their armor glinting beneath a sky thick with dust. Only Cade remained, his outline filling the ruined entryway, a monolith of alloy and wrath. Cade raised his arm, a cannon unfolding from the gauntlet, targeting Lyra as she darted forward. "You will kneel," he snarled, voice metallic and distorted. Syrah saw the shot before it came. She threw herself between Cade and her sister, her body catching the searing bolt of energy. She screamed, the sound wrenching and raw, but her shield held. Lyra tumbled clear, unharmed. Jonas's world shrank to a point of fury. He charged Cade, rage and echo blending into a primal force. Cade swung, metal fist crashing into Jonas's ribs, but Jonas gritted his teeth, driving forward. "You won't hurt them," he growled. The sisters, blood and pain and love pulsing through their bond, focused echo on Cade's cybernetic implants. Jonas could feel their consciousness pressing into metal and code, seeking out weaknesses, sowing confusion. Cade's systems sputtered. His suit twitched, locked joints grinding with a metallic groan. Cade roared, struggling, but Jonas was relentless. He tackled the captain, driving him to the ground, pinning his arms. Syrah and Lyra joined him, their hands pressed to Cade's armored chest, the echo pulsing like a living heart. Circuits sparked, the suit seized. Cade's visor flickered, then went dark. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of cooling metal and Jonas's ragged breath. The station, battered and scorched, stood, barely, but they had survived. Syrah, wounded but unbowed, pressed shaking hands to her side. Lyra knelt beside her, whispering words of comfort as she checked the injury. Syrah grimaced but managed a smile. "I've had worse," she rasped. With a practiced flick, she disabled Cade's internal failsafes, neutralizing any chance of remote reactivation. They worked quickly, binding the unconscious soldiers with what restraints remained, dragging them to the Dominion shuttle and sealing the hatch. Jonas and Syrah hoisted the dead weight of Cade's armored form, dragging him down into the cool shadows of the basement. There, they chained him to an ancient pillar, the iron biting into his reinforced limbs. Cade blinked awake, his eyes wild above the flickering visor. He managed a twisted sneer, even as sweat beaded on his brow. "The Dominion is endless," he spat, voice thick with contempt. "You can't hide. They'll never stop. You're nothing. You're prey." Lyra stepped forward, her silhouette framed by the fractured light streaming through the basement grates. She seemed to glow from within, calm and unshakable, her skin a tapestry of hope. "We were never yours," she said softly, the power of the echo humming in her words. "And we are not alone now." Cade glared, but something in his gaze faltered as Lyra's certainty filled the space. Jonas and Syrah flanked her, their bond unbroken, their strength undeniable. Above, the battered station creaked in the wind, but within its walls, a new future had taken root, one built not on fear or domination, but on defiance, unity, and something like love. Sunrise bled gold across the Namib, painting the battered domes and wind-scoured sand in new hope. Jonas stood with Syrah and Lyra before the captured Dominion shuttle, its hull still humming with a dangerous alien energy. Smoke drifted from the broken station behind them, curling upward into the clear morning air. But for the first time since the storm, the world felt open, a blank page, waiting. Syrah's silhouette was sharp in the dawn. She held up Cade's command band, the device glinting in her steady hand, circuits flickering with stolen promise. "With this," she said, her voice strong despite the bandages at her side, "I can access their systems. The Dominion will search, but we have time. They won't realize the network's been compromised until it's too late." Jonas glanced at the cracked visor, the shattered sensor arrays, the blackened earth where the battle had raged. He felt no regret for what was lost. The station, his sanctuary, his prison, was behind him now. What mattered was here. Syrah, fierce and brilliant, with laughter and pain shining equally in her eyes. Lyra, serene and radiant, her jade-green skin glowing with gentle joy as the sunlight touched her. He let out a long breath. "We did it," he said, voice rough. "You both did." He reached out, drawing the sisters into his arms. Syrah leaned against him, her old barriers crumbling, her head resting on his shoulder as if she had always belonged there. Lyra curled into his other side, the warmth of her presence more reassuring than any wall of stone or shield of energy. Jonas felt the echo within them, a soft, steady hum, not the wild surge of battle, but something deeper and more enduring. It was a melody of connection, running beneath every word and touch. In it, he sensed Syrah's pride, her exhaustion and fierce protectiveness, Lyra's hope, her relief, the quiet awe that still colored her every glance at him. "You two are my universe," he whispered, the words falling easily, unguarded. Syrah smiled, eyes shining, the old hardness gone. "We're a strange constellation," she teased, but her voice was thick with emotion. Lyra turned to face Jonas, her hand finding his. "And you are our anchor, Jonas. Our guide, our home." The patterns on her skin swirled, glowing in the soft light, as if the dawn itself was answering her. Together they surveyed their options, hearts beating in a rhythm no longer just their own. The Dominion shuttle was theirs now, a spear hurled back at the hand that had tried to grasp them. Its controls flickered with cryptic symbols, but Syrah's fingers moved with new confidence as she scrolled through Dominion systems, disabling tracking beacons and looping surveillance feeds. "They'll think we're still here for a little while," she said, "just enough to slip through the cracks." Jonas helped Lyra load supplies, water, tools, the battered field kit that had been his lifeline in the desert, now just one of many. Lyra's hands lingered over each item, as if anchoring memory in every motion. "There's a map here," she said softly, eyes scanning the alien interface Syrah projected onto the sand. "Routes the Dominion uses, places they fear to patrol. We could find others, people like us, or just people lost." Syrah looked up from her work. "We'll need allies and secrets, but we have a weapon the Dominion can never match." She touched Jonas's chest, then Lyra's, her hand lingering over her own heart. "This." They stood for a moment, quiet and certain, as the world turned golden around them. Jonas felt years of isolation fall away. He was no longer a ghost in a forgotten station, a scientist haunted by failure and loss. He was something more, someone found, chosen, needed. Memories flickered through him. Syrah's laughter in the workshop, her hand steadying his when nerves threatened to betray him. Lyra's voice at midnight, guiding him through constellations unknown, her touch a bridge between worlds. The nights when fear was a storm, and their warmth was the only shelter. The battles fought, the wounds shared, the words never spoken, but always understood. He gathered them close, feeling the thrum of the echo, that living, impossible bond. It was not just power, not just survival. It was family, built not from blood, but from choice, from the courage to reach out across every gulf and say, "I will stand with you." Sierra pressed her cheek to his, eyes closing as she let herself be held. "You saved us, Jonas. You gave us more than escape. You gave us belonging." Lyra's lips brushed his ear, her voice gentle as sunrise. "And you let us save you." Jonas's eyes stung with tears, but he laughed, shaking his head. "We saved each other. I never thought I'd find that out here." The shuttle's engines whined, ready for flight. Sierra keyed in coordinates, her posture easy for the first time since their world had collapsed. Lyra sat at the navigation console, humming softly, the crystals from their ship arrayed before her. A new map, a new purpose. Jonas stood at the hatch, looking back just once. The station was ruined, yes, but it was also transformed, etched with the patterns of their story, scorched but not erased. The desert stretched endless and empty, but he no longer feared the horizon. The three of them faced forward, toward a future uncharted and full of peril, armed with a stolen shuttle, Dominion technology, and the echo that tied their fates together. The Dominion was vast, relentless, a shadow stretching across the stars. But hope was stubborn. Love was a force the Dominion would never understand. And freedom, hard-won and uncertain, was worth every risk. They took their places, the shuttle's bay sealing around them. Sierra glanced at Jonas and Lyra, her smirk softening into a promise. "Whatever's out there, it doesn't know what's coming." Lyra smiled, her jade skin radiant. "Together, we are more than the Dominion ever imagined." Jonas gripped their hands, feeling the echo pulse, steady, bright, unbreakable. "Soulmates," he said quietly, the word carrying more weight than any vow. "Not just by fate, by choice." The shuttle rose on a pillar of light, carving a new path through the dawn. Whatever came, whatever worlds waited, they would meet it as one. The fight for freedom had just begun, but they had already won something greater: each other. Our story ends here. If you'd like to support us, you can use the Super Thanks button right under the video to leave a tip. It truly helps our team improve the quality of our work. We're grateful to each and every subscriber for being with us. Make sure you subscribe, press the like button, and tell us in the comments what stood out to you the most in this video. Your feedback means a lot to our team. You'll discover many more captivating stories on our channel. See you in the next one.